11 offensive rebounds, Syracuse with just 9. And I know that's not that much of a margin, but the fact that Syracuse gives up that many offensive boards, it doesn't matter if you're Pittsburgh or Duke, they're going to take advantage. And Coach Autry said there's only so many rebounding drills we can do. At the end of the day, the players have to go execute. So like I said, Syracuse ending the season, the regular season, on a low note. The Orange can make something really funny happen and go on a little bit of a run in the ACC tournament. That would be unbelievable. I'm sure Syracuse fans would love to just have more games of this Syracuse team, and we will have all those games right here on WAER starting on Tuesday for the first round matchup between Syracuse and SMU. All right, before we take a break, let's take one last trip around the nation. Starting across the country, I just talked about it. Wake Forest taking down Cal 80-73 just moments ago. Demon Deacons guard Juke Harris exploded offensively in the win, dropping 31 points and grabbing 15 rebounds. Because of Wake Forest's win, Syracuse is the 14th seed, like I talked about in the ACC tournament, and will take on 11th seed SMU on Tuesday at 4:30. Syracuse took down SMU a few weeks ago inside the Dome. WAER's McCluger Modeling countdown to tip-off will get going at 4 for a 4:30 tip. On the turf, number 10 Syracuse men's lacrosse defeated number 11 Johns Hopkins down in Baltimore earlier today, 12-8. Orange attackman Joey Spallina led the team, tying a season-high 4 goals and 3 assists, 7 points for Spallina in this game. SU closes out its 6-game road trip in Colorado Springs against Air Force next Thursday. That game is at 5 o'clock. Our coverage begins on WAER with McCluger Modeling. Countdown to face-off at 4:30. In ranked men's hoops, top-ranked Duke leads 17th-ranked North Carolina 17-13, nearly halfway through the first half. The Tar Heels are without star freshman Caleb Wilson, who fractured his right thumb in practice yesterday. Wilson will miss the entirety of the rest of this season. Boy, that is a bad loss for the Tar Heels. Speaking of bad losses, we still got to break down this Syracuse loss in overtime to Pittsburgh. We've got radio replay on the other side of this break. Stick with us here on Orange Overtime.
88.3 WAER, bringing news that matters to you, making you better informed and better connected to your community.
Transit has to be modern, accessible, and connected to the neighborhoods and institutions that make this city and region work. And BRT is a key part of that.
Listen to WAER News every weekday during Morning Edition from 5 to 9 and All Things Considered from 4 to 6, or catch up anytime at WAER.org.
WAER is bringing the community out of hibernation this spring. Join us on March 16th at Harvey's Garden from 5 to 8 p.m. for our Spring Friendraiser, an evening of connection, conversation, and proof that winter does eventually end in Syracuse. It's the perfect way to shake off cabin fever, kick off our spring membership campaign, and meet the people behind the voices you hear every day on WAER. This is your excuse to get out of the house and have some fun. Learn more and join us at WAER.org.
The game might be over, but what's better than listening to the action once? Hearing it again. It's time for radio replay on WAER.
After extra basketball inside the JMA Wireless Dome, Syracuse falls to Pittsburgh 71-69. Welcome in on Orange Overtime. I'm your host, Gino Antmarino. In a game that was back and forth all game long, like I said, the Panthers ultimately splitting the season series and taking down the Orange in its senior day inside the JMA Wireless Dome. Date number 130 in the storied rivalry that lasted over a century long. Searching for a win after losing its last 4, Syracuse turned to its forward William Kyle to set the tone.
Hands off, Starling throws it up for Kyle, and he slams it home. William Kyle with instant offense. 2 seniors connecting, and it's 2-0 Orange over the Panthers, 30 seconds in.
It looked like the Orange were going to control the game after a statement start, but it was the Panthers who got their offense rolling.
Witherspoon clears out the offense on the left wing, kicks to Corin straight away. Lob inside, Cialepa takes it to the rim. Right-handed lay is good, and Pitt has hit double digits. It's 11-4 Panthers, 4 minutes in.
Three-pointers were hard to come by in the first half, but SU guard Nate Kings found his spot on the wing and didn't miss.
Picks up his dribble at the left wing. Hands off to Kyle straight away. Looking for Kings. Gives it to him. Left wing three. He got it. Nate Kings with the Orange's first three of the day cuts the Pitt lead down to 4. 11-7, 4.5 minutes in.
While it was senior day in the Dome, it was actually a junior that had the breakout for the Orange.
Short corner, double team comes, kicks outside Kings. Extra pass, Starling right corner. Nice through the lane, kick out. Nate George left wing three. He got it. The best ball movement the Orange have seen all season results in a three-pointer, and it's just a 2-point game. Pitt 24, Syracuse 22, 5.5 minutes to go in the first half.
And what a way to bookend the half. After starting it with an exclamation point, Orange guard Nate George provided an equal play to send SU to the locker room with the lead.
Hands off to Betsy, right wing. Back down to Freeman on the low right block. Draws the double team. Splits it to the corner. George, a three-pointer. The Orange have the lead. 31-28, under a minute to go in the first half.
In the second half, it was more of the same. If it was a video game, Nate George would have activated Takeover by now.
Winds to the left angle. Now drives on Cialeppa. Step back, baseline J, you bet. String music for Nate George. He's got the Orange back on top. 35-33 Syracuse leads just under 4 minutes into the second half.
Pitt went on a 12-0 run after that bucket, and it was Syracuse needing to crawl itself out of a hole for where Donnie Freeman had the answer.
Freeman soars in for the board. His putback rolls off the rim. Another offensive rebound, hook shot, and one. Donnie Freeman with a third chance bucket and then some. He'll go to the line with a chance at a three-point play. The Orange trail 7 with 9.5 minutes left.
With the Orange entering the game at exactly 500 on the season, it seems Syracuse was bound for back-to-back regular seasons below that mark, but Nate George kept the momentum on SU's side once again.
Instead, Betsy gives it up. Soiree, 3 seconds to shoot. George a long three. He got it. Just tried to draw the foul, and instead he buries a three-pointer. 22 points for Nate George tonight. He's got the Orange within 4, 8 minutes to play.
Erasing a 12-point deficit was not going to be easy, but with shooters all over the court, SU did just that.
Soiree straight away to Kings on the right wing. Pump fakes a three. Spin move. Kick out. Betsy corner three. You betcha. Tyler Betsy buries it. The game is tied. 52 apiece. Less than 6 minutes to go.
You betcha from Betsy there. That's a great call from Jake. Neither side wanted to give in, and so for the fourth time this season, it was Syracuse men's basketball that found itself in extra time. Pitt had an early edge in overtime until sophomore Donnie Freeman knocked down a big shot.
Freeman corrals it. He drives long. Hook shot. Rattles in. Oh, it hung up above the cylinder for what felt like ages, and Donnie Freeman finally gets it to drop. He ties the game at 69 apiece, right at the midway point of overtime.
What a crazy game, a back-and-forth affair, and it's a shame that the final 2 points to go ahead and win this game was because of a goaltending.
Gets it into George. 3 seconds across the timeline. Half-court shot. Off the mark, and that's the ball game. Pitt survives Syracuse 71-69 in overtime and punches its ticket to the ACC tournament.
So there you have it. Syracuse falling to Pittsburgh 71-69 inside the JMA Wireless Dome, the final regular season game this year. The Orange turn their attention to the ACC tournament starting on Tuesday. Time for our WAER Player of the Game, which I will give out to, drumroll please, Nate George. 26 points, 8 for 17 from the field, a season high for him in points, 40 minutes of action, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, only 2 turnovers, and 2 steals. Nate George, you are our WAER Player of the Game. Before we tease the double overtime and get into that, which I know Josh Richardson and Dan Papillo are just foaming at the mouth to talk about this game, let's pause for station identification.
Hey, folks, I'm Jason Horowitz, voice of the Raiders and WAER class of 2005. You're listening to the original home of the Orange, WAER Syracuse.
The original home of the Orange, WAER, has its next broadcast on Tuesday, March 10th. Syracuse taking on SMU. It's the 14-seeded Orange taking on the 11th-seeded Mustangs in the first round of the ACC tournament. Countdown to tip-off is at 4 o'clock, and then tip-off is at 4:30. So make sure you stay tuned to that game. It's going to be a good one. Syracuse took down SMU earlier this season. We'll see if good fortune can fall back on the Orange for that game. Some thank yous to hand out before our double overtime rolls around. Our producer, Sam Reese. Our engineer, Griffin Marcy. Our radio replay, Cadence Kilhoff. Our script writer, Josh Rothert. And the entire WAER sports desk for pitching in and putting together an excellent performance. Now, speaking of excellent performances, I'm not going to say that Syracuse had an excellent performance, but here to break it all down and give an excellent breakdown, you could say, of this game, Josh Richardson and Dan Papillo on the double overtime, or should I say the triple overtime after this game went to overtime. You know the joke. Call in up until 8:30. That's when the show ends. You can call in 315-443-2011, or you can tune in on WAER Sports Talk on our Twitter page. But for now, Josh, Dan, a game that Syracuse was right there for the taking, but again, just couldn't get that final push.
Very clever, Gino, and that's just about all that was clever in this matchup. Syracuse brought to the brink by an ACC bottom feeder. It took extra time, and in the final 2.5 minutes of overtime, Syracuse goes silent, Josh.
Syracuse goes down. I think you can hear the surprise in my voice, right? This has been the story all season, and now you have at least one more game to go before just another difficult season for Syracuse comes to a close.
A somewhat fitting end to an interesting regular season for Adrian Autry and Syracuse. Pitt takes down the Orange 71-69 in overtime, and for the final time here in the regular season, it's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
The game may be over, but our coverage on WAER is not. Here on the double overtime, we'll be breaking down all the highs.
Carlos kicks out. Freeman contested three. It doesn't matter. It swirls home. The horn sounds, and Donnie Freeman sends this team into the locker room jumping for joy.
Starling from the right wing gets down the lane. His righty layup goes, and the Orange lead.
He's calling all the way for it. Wants it on Suarez. Spins back to his right. Baby hook up, and it goes. And one. Eddie Lampkin rocks the baby around the three-point line.
And the lows.
100 matchups between Georgetown and Syracuse. A long 95-year history. The rivalry is alive and well, and today, the victors is Georgetown.
Low slices through the defense. Behind the back pass. Corhen sticks it up and in. A little razzle-dazzle from Jalen Lowe to Cam Corhen. And that one may be the dagger.
And thus ends the second season under Adrian Autry. And it finishes in the second round of the ACC tournament in 2025.
Delivering our hottest takes along the way.
But it just makes you wonder what is going on in practice, because each time that Adrian Autry takes the podium, it's a lot of, we're working on it.
We're getting better.
We're working on it. We're getting better. We're getting better. Well, sure. Maybe in theory they're getting better.
But
this is a fan base that needs you to be good now.
Say this about Syracuse basketball is crazy, because the brand of Syracuse basketball that I grew up knowing is so far distant from where this team is at now. But I mean, we could be talking about Syracuse at the bottom of the ACC.
I don't think this team makes the ACC tournament at this rate.
Get your voice heard by calling in at 315-443-2011 or check out our YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. It's the double overtime, and it starts right now.
Hour 7 of live coverage of Syracuse sports here on WAER. we bring you the double overtime after Pittsburgh takes down Syracuse 71-69 in overtime. Alongside Josh Richardson, I'm Dan Papillo, and a lot going on in this game. It came down to the wire, but yet another Syracuse loss. If you have thoughts, you want to get your voice heard, 315-443-2011, the number to call. Be sure to interact with us as well on X and YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. An interesting loss for the Orange. The lines are already open, and Dave from Liverpool is on. Dave, how you feeling after that loss?
Reminded me of SU football losing to Boston College after Boston College had lost 10 games in a row.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yep, that checks out.
The last time Syracuse had back-to-back losing seasons was almost 60 years ago. Do people have a concept of that? Can people understand that? I want the
60 years is a long
Syracuse
time to put
fan
it in perspective.
to maybe stop going to games because they're not really seeing real basketball. This isn't real basketball we've had for years.
It's hard to say that you can't really alienate the fan base necessarily because that's what's keeping Syracuse basketball going. The fan base has been very loyal. So what makes you say that?
Well, because sometimes I think maybe the administration might try to figure out to try to hire somebody that has some experience and actually knows how to teach players how to play, because there's not a single one of these players that I think has improved this year. There's not a single one of these players that has what I would call high basketball IQ. The same thing happens every game. Syracuse lets the other team score down low, and Syracuse can't score down low. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, when I look at all the other centers in college basketball, they're all taller than Kyle. They're all taller than Kyle, and the only time Kyle can score is on a pass up near the basket.
Dave, I don't disagree with you. I do think that, I mean, this is the last game of the regular season. Realistically, Syracuse only has one or two more games left to play. I mean, obviously, Michael Haney, the new chancellor, has already talked about, he wants to see Syracuse athletics get back up to where it was, really even 5-10 years ago, right? And I think that there's clearly an overhaul coming. There's a new AD coming in. There's likely a new coach coming in. I think, wanting something to change is on the horizon, don't you think?
Yeah, I just hope they're really smart with this next hire. They got to be really smart. And maybe they should pay somebody some more money.
Well, things are going to be a whole lot different a year from now, Dave. Thanks so much for the call. Once again, if you want to get your voice heard, you have thoughts on the overtime, anything on this game, 315-443-2011, the number to call. And Josh, diving into this overtime, it was 65-65 going in. And mind you, the final score, 71-69. So not a lot of scoring, especially from the Orange.
Yeah, not a lot going on. That's 10 points in 5 minutes?
Yeah, that's not great.
Between the two teams? Yeah, it's not great. I mean, obviously, the defenses really did buckle down towards the end of regulation and then in overtime. But just no one could buy a basket. I mean, it took a goaltending, right? Like, the shot technically didn't even go in, right? That ended up being the game-winning layup for Pitt. There just wasn't a lot going on, and Syracuse just couldn't find the bottom of the net.
It was so entertaining that the CW had NASCAR double-boxed in during timeouts and overtime.
And I don't blame them,
but
not at all.
You mentioned Syracuse's struggles, and the last 2.5 minutes of game time not scoring a basket or scoring a point even is unacceptable. I mean, that is just so bad. I know Syracuse has struggled this season, right? And obviously, there's been so many things that you could talk about of what's gone wrong. But for the season to end like that, the regular season to end like that, in front of your home fans on senior day, is just, it doesn't sit right with me.
But it's no different, right? It's no different than anything has been for Syracuse for the last 3 months. It's the same. Like, every game, I feel like I'm watching just the same old game every single time, right? And the one that really kickstarted it was Boston College. I think back into mid-January. You go on the road to BC, you're up by 3. Instead of fouling up 3 and playing the foul game, you let the Eagles shoot a triple, goes in, you lose in overtime, right? Then you come home, you lose to Virginia Tech, you lose to Miami. I mean, lost to Virginia Tech, lost to Miami, right? I mean, lost to North Carolina, now lose this game. I mean, there are just so many
bad games at home, so many bad games overall for the Orange. They're just not a good team. I wish I could say that I was surprised by the outcome, but it's just the same thing that I've been watching for the last 3 months, so nothing really catches me off guard at this point.
No, I definitely agree with you, and that was a 4-game losing skid from the Orange, and this now caps off a 5-game losing stretch to end the regular season, something that has been absolutely just, it's felt inevitable, right? Like, we've talked about it all season long of just how, like, the season just kind of needs to come to its end. There's already, the writing's been on the wall. There's going to be a lot of change next season.
Yeah.
A new chancellor, which we talked about already, a new athletic director, probably a new head coach, and so much is changing that this season is finally coming to an end. And Jim from East Syracuse is on the line, and he wants to talk about the season. Jim, what do you got?
There'll be a lot of change next season. A new chancellor, which we talked about already, a new athletic director, probably a new head coach. And so much is changing that this season is finally coming to an end. And Jim,
yes,
he's on the line.
How's it going, Jim?
Talk about the season. Jim, what do you got?
I just want to thank you guys for making the season bearable. I listen to your show every SU game, and you guys do a great job. My son has dealt with you. He writes for Noon's Magician, and he's very complimentary towards you guys.
Thank you so much, Jim. We really appreciate it.
Hopefully next year's better.
Yeah, hopefully we can bring you some coverage into March and maybe even April. So, Jim, thank you so much for the call. Once again, if you want to get your voice heard here on the Double Overtime, 315-443-2011, the number. We got you up until 8:30. Dan Papillo alongside Josh Richardson. We talked about the overtime, but it's time to dive into the box score a little bit here. And there's something that very much stands out.
I have a good feeling I know where you're about to go with this.
J.J. Starling, in 27 minutes of play today for the Orange, goose egg, 0 for 7 shooting. What the heck? What is going on?
Guess what? Adrian Autry doesn't even know. Adrian Autry in the press conference talking about J.J. Starling's struggles. 3 words. I don't know. How many times is J.J. Starling going to put up a bit of a stinker, right? I mean, it's really, really crazy thinking about where we were back in November and late October when you sized up this Syracuse team on paper. Okay, you get Donnie Freeman back. And you have J.J. Starling, who's like this great second option. And in ACC play, J.J. Starling just completely disappeared.
We talked about it a little bit earlier, or Dave from Liverpool actually talked about it, about how, Syracuse doesn't have a true center, William Kyle at 6'9".
Have a true point guard.
That team was built this offseason by 2 people, Donnie Freeman and J.J. Starling. They put the team together. It was put together so that the 2 stars of this program could come together and play to their best abilities. Guess what? J.J. Starling finished the season averaging 11.5 points. That's the same mark he had as a freshman at Notre Dame.
Here's J.J. Starling's last 6 games. Going back to the win over SMU, where he only played 19 minutes, and then the 5-game losing streak. 4, 9, 22, 2-2-0. Let's go over those last 3 games again. 2-2-0 on 2 of 18 shooting.
I mean, jeez.
That is unbelievable. No free throws attempted in the last 3 games of the season for the guy that's made his living driving into the paint, creating contact, and getting to the mid-range. Never known as a 3-point shooter, always an inside-the-arc guy, a good slasher that can get to the hoop. No free throws attempted. 2 of 18 from the field in the final 3 games of the year for 4 total points. That is unbelievable.
I was just about to say, we've watched J.J. Starling's career blossom over the last 3 years here at Syracuse, and that has always been his
blossom.
The first 2 years he had grown, he put up 18 points per game last year.
On his worst shooting percentage of the year. Like, he was so inefficient last year. He put up decent numbers, but it's not like he, objectively played, as well as 17 points a game.
But what I mean by blossom, at least, is that you saw flashes. You knew that there was talent there, right? This season, I don't know if it's because of the injury early on in the year or if things just kind of maybe took a step back mentally or something. I'm not sure. But to see this fall off from someone who was expected to be so big for this program, it's really unfortunate. And obviously, there's other options on this team. You can't just blame J.J. Starling for what's happened, but that's going to play a factor, right? Donnie Freeman put up 18 points tonight. He's been your leading scorer all season long. He did his job once again. It can't just be Donnie Freeman every day. Donnie Freeman and J.J. Starling built this team. Not
I mean,
Donnie Freeman
pump the
only.
brakes on Donnie Freeman here for just a second in terms of did his job today. He shot 5 of 14.
Yeah, I know.
He didn't shoot, 8 of his points were from the free throw line. Great night from the line for Syracuse, by the way. 16 of 17.
Well, we're just looking for any win at this point, grasping at straws.
At this point, when you finish the season the way Syracuse did. But it's not like Donnie Freeman was, if he shot 5 of 9, 5 of 10, he was around 50%. He was nearly at 33% shooting from the field. He didn't have that great of a game. But I do understand the point that you're making. I mean, he at least performed.
Back to this game specifically, it's strange kind of looking at how it went. Obviously, basketball is a game of runs, right? But this game just felt so strange in the way that the runs were happening. Pitt outscored Syracuse 17-4 in the first 7 minutes of the second half, to which Syracuse responded with a 10-0 run to even it back up. And then after that, both teams just kind of forgot how to score.
Yeah.
It's kind of just, it's strange because all season long, too, we've talked about this offense and how there really hasn't been much of an offense or much of an identity on offense. And I feel like you saw that again today. Constant iso ball, no ball movement, and usually one person benefits from that. Today, it was Nate George, who had a season-high 26 points. But even so, he shot 8 of 17 from the field. Syracuse, as a team, shot 39 or 39% from the field, excuse me. There was nothing. I can't sit here and, regardless of a really good performance by Nate George, happy for him, good for you, you can't sit here and say that you're happy with anything Syracuse has done in the past 3-4 months.
Yeah, which is crazy, too, just about so much iso ball going on, right? And you took one of SU's premier isolation players out of the lineup today in Kyan Anthony with his injury, right? Theoretically, the whole issue with Syracuse in the middle of January was you can't play JJ and Kyan at the same time because they both just love to go into isolation, and all they do is just pass back and forth, and it's your turn, my turn, your turn, my turn, and then the other guys might get a look on a drive and kick option. No Kyan Anthony, and the same thing just still happened. That is just an overall program, schematic issue that there's no correlation between anybody and connection offensively. It's just one guy has it, and the next guy gets his turn a couple plays later.
A lot of frustration from us and a lot of frustration around the program. Jim from Baldwinsville is on the line. He was at the game sitting near the family section of the players, and he wants to give us his insight. Jim, what do you got?
Hey, guys, and I don't like, talking out of school or anything like that, but, yeah, I was sitting near where the families were. It was senior day, so it was packed with family members, both upperclassmen, underclassmen. But what I can tell you is that it got pretty intense over there at a couple points where a couple of the family members, 2 people that they were singling out on the other team or for our team was, number one, they were going after Red. There was a couple of F-bombs dropped in his direction, a couple of this is why you're getting fired yelling in that direction, and then also there was I can tell you this: a lot of the players' family members are not fans of, or at least one particular one was not very happy with Donnie Freeman, even though Donnie, had what I would call a good game. They were screaming at the kid to move, set a pick for somebody else, do something for another player to get another player open. So, where I'm going with this, guys, is that it's boiled over. There's no doubt. We all know a change is coming, but Red has lost the program. I mean, he's lost control of it, I would say. And it's sad to see. I mean, I hate piling on the guy, but again, I don't, because he is a big boy. He's getting a nice buyout, and he'll be fine. But, this is looking more and more like a disaster choice. And we have to remember, guys, that the late great coach Jim Boeheim was all about Red in his play. I mean, he was actually schooling the community, saying, that Red is a great coach. He's going to do a great job. And, just another salesman, in my opinion, just wanting to see him get his way. So it's time for a change. We got to go outside the family, and we got to find one of these coaches that's adapt and attune to the new way of college basketball, which is transfer portal and NIL.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see, guys, but that's what I saw tonight, and it wasn't pretty.
Jay, I just want to say, great investigative reporting from you.
Yeah,
I mean,
thank
this
you very
is
much.
Such great information that we would have obviously never been able to get.
Hey, are you doing anything?
Well,
You want to join the team here at WAER?
Well, guys, honestly, it wasn't very hard to investigate, but trust me, I wasn't the only one that was hearing it there. It was loud, it was vocal, and at times it was vulgar. In fact, a couple of the fans that sit, in the big money seats, the front row seats, actually turned around and started yelling at them to lay off a Red. It was quite comical, actually. It was pretty fun to watch.
Wow. Always great insight from you, Jay. Thank you always for calling in. We really appreciate it. If you want to get your voice heard just like Jay, 315-443-2011, the number to call. And you touched on it a little bit before we heard from Jay, and I think we have to talk about it.
Yeah.
Kyan Anthony and Sadiq White both not
out.
playing today. And as soon as we heard that, I said to you, well, what's the point of watching or listening to this game if those two aren't going to be in the lineup?
Well, let's not go that far. I mean,
No, I think we can go that far. Because
what difference have they really made all season that drastically they just don't play in the Pitt game? It's like, oh, well, I guess we just shouldn't tune in anymore.
in the last game of the season, you don't want to see the supposed future of your program?
I guess, but like...
You're turning the page to a new beginning and you're benching them? That didn't make any sense to me. I know it's senior day and you're trying to, celebrate the guys that have been here, sure. But in this world of college basketball, right, I'm willing to almost bet that the starting five that we saw today for Syracuse, you're not going to see any of those five on Syracuse.
Probably not, but I think that there's an argument that you could make that maybe whether or not they play doesn't really have an effect on if you see Kyan or Sadiq next season for Syracuse. I don't think this game, I don't think benching them makes that much of a difference.
I can't think that Kyan Anthony and Sadiq White were happy to be told, oh, you're getting benched in the final home game at the Dome.
100%. I'm not disagreeing with you on that, but I'm just saying I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference, right? Like, I don't think if they're hypothetically, if Kyan or Sadiq are going to transfer after the season, I don't think playing in this game or not is really going to have that big of an effect. And I think from a fan perspective, I don't really care. I just want the season over with. If I'm a fan,
if I were a fan and I
right?
paid good money to go to the Dome tonight to see Kyan Anthony play, which has been a majority, he's been...
Well, you're probably going to be disappointed because he only plays about 15 minutes a game.
Sure.
If that's why you're going to a Syracuse game, is to go see Kyan Anthony
But that's
play.
been the draw. You go to a game because you want to see the exciting players. Do you think
Has
anybody
he really
else?
been that exciting this year?
I wouldn't say so, but the name...
So what are we talking about
But it's
then?
the fact that the fans... That excitement for Kyan Anthony has been there all season long. He still gets the loudest cheers out of anybody when he gets announced in the lineup.
Obviously, but that doesn't mean that people are going... Like, I don't think that there's
I don't think it's ridiculous
to
say that people are going to see Kyan Anthony play.
At this point in the season, I absolutely think that's ridiculous. It's the last game of the season. He plays 15 minutes a game. If this was November, I'll give that to you. It's his first time in Orange. Everybody's having fun with their family. They're not going to games. A lot of these people that are still going to Syracuse games, it's because they have season tickets and they don't want them to go to waste because they probably can't sell them for very much at this point because the team just isn't good. Like, I think everyone just wants this season to be over. That goes for fans. I'm sure the players aren't having a good time losing during 5 straight games, right? Like, if they can extend their season and win a couple games in the ACC tournament, sure. But, like, this season has been a disaster. Let's put it bluntly.
It definitely has.
I think everyone just wants this season to be over so there can be a reset next year. I don't think benching Kyan and benching Sadiq is going to have that big of a drastic change on what this means for the future of the program.
Maybe not so drastic, but I just think it's kind of just doesn't make sense to me. I know, like, we talked about...
to be fair, like, Kyan did have a back injury, right? Like, that was the report that came out, is that he was hurt.
Okay.
He had a back injury against Louisville. So, I mean, like, maybe he could have played through it. I don't know if, like, the severity of it, but that was the report that had come out last night. Right?
All right,
So,
that
like,
very much changes things.
Okay.
Then in that case, then I think honestly benching him was probably the right decision to get him ready for this supposed ACC tournament run that you might be going on.
Supposed.
But it's very strange, and if you also agree with me or you agree with Josh that you think not playing the young guys on the last game of the season is an interesting decision or the wrong decision, the right decision, call in. Let us know what you think. 315-443-2011. Here on the Double Overtime, Dan Papillo, Josh Richardson, after Pittsburgh takes down Syracuse 71-69 in overtime. And Josh, another thing that has not made a whole lot of sense, I want to dive back into the overtime a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we need to touch on the final 30 seconds of this game because it's a tie game. Pitt has the ball, and Syracuse gets called for a goaltend.
Yep.
Now, I'm not going to say here that was the right call, obviously, but what really is rubbing me the wrong way was that Syracuse had 4 seconds after that, and the best that they could do to try to tie this game, or win this game rather, was chuck up a half-court heave.
There's not a lot of time left.
Yeah, but I think you had the timeout. You could very easily have called a timeout or on that timeout drawn something up to at least have a shot in the front court.
Yeah, I mean, getting it up there is difficult.
It's definitely difficult, and it was an interesting play, and Doug from Syracuse wants to talk about it. Doug, what did you see on that final possession?
Hey guys, well, the final possession, I don't think we had a timeout. And
they took the timeout to take a look at it to see if they wanted to challenge the goaltend.
Challenge the goaltend.
Right. Oh, right. Okay, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, heaving a half court shot with 2 seconds left is never a good feeling. But actually, I wanted to comment on the play right before that. They ran a play which you rarely get to see with this offense to get Donnie posted up one-on-one on the block. The Pitt defender, fronted the pass and it wasn't there, and we panicked. Nate Kings panicked because the only play option wasn't there. And really, it's not even a play. It's just trying to get an isolation with Donnie on the post, which, fine, whatever. I have no problem with that. But I think it sums up the entire season of AAU one-on-one ball, no identity, no system in place, and that is the hardest part about going to these games at the Dome and watching the same game over and over again. And I think that's why we want to see the young guys on the court. At least there's something to maybe look forward to of hey, if this guy doesn't transfer out, maybe he has a future here. But I'm so sick of watching it. The AAU no system offense. It's time to put it to bed. I hope as soon as we lose in the ACC championship, or it's not the ACC championship.
I don't know if it's going to be the ACC championship. Yeah.
Yeah, I misspoke. I didn't mean to say championship.
No, you're
we're messing with it.
Yeah.
The ACC tournament, I hope as soon as we lose that, the next thing that we see is Adrian Autry.
I have a feeling that's going to be what happens. But I think Cayenne contributes a little bit to that isolation AAU ball, does he not? I feel like that's been his call. He's an isolation scorer. I don't think anything really changes whether he's on the court or not.
No, for sure. I mean, you're a product of the system that you're in, right?
Absolutely.
So yes, that's Cayenne's strength, but it's also being allowed. I mean, how many times did we see a three get chucked up in the first 10 seconds of the shot clock tonight, and really all season? So yeah, I mean, I totally get that. I don't think Cayenne is quite ready yet, but I mean, I'd prefer to see him out there than not. I'd prefer to see him out there than Nate Kings and Nate George that won't be here next year. You know what I mean? That's my take. I'd rather see these young guys in that might be here next year than guys who aren't going to be here this late in the season with a losing record.
I very much agree with you, Doug. You hit the nail on the head. Thank you so much for the call. If you want to get your voice heard, just like Doug, 315-443-2011, the number. And that was kind of what I was getting at earlier. At this point in the season, if we're looking at this Syracuse lineup, does Nate Kings really excite you? Does Nathan George excite you?
Nobody on this team really
excites
me at
me.
this point.
The only people that were exciting, at least for some stretch of the season, were Cayenne Anthony and Sadiq White, which is why
Donnie Freeman never excited you when he came back for that first game in ACC play? He played well at the beginning of ACC play.
I think that was kind of more or less.
He was why they made that comeback against Clemson in the ACC opener.
It's more.
He absolutely had an exciting stretch.
Now, he did have an exciting stretch, but that was also just a factor of everybody else was not exciting, and they were not exciting while Donnie Freeman was gone. But I think you could argue William Kyle was exciting early in the season, like the first 3 games as well.
He totally was.
But without those guys playing, it's almost like, it's the same thing over and over again. Here we go again. Syracuse is going to play that same game that we know. J.J. Starling's going to hold the ball for 15 seconds, and then a double team's going to come. They're not going to know what to do.
It does feel like Groundhog's Day a lot. Like every single game, it's the same story. Whether they get up to a big lead and blow it, or whether they are behind by a bunch, they make a late comeback after everybody subs their team out, and then makes the score look a little bit respectable. That definitely does happen both ways.
Groundhog's Day is finally almost over.
Yeah.
The regular season comes to an end tonight with Pitt taking down the Orange 71-69 in overtime. But the ACC tournament is on the horizon coming up on Tuesday. But before we get to that, John from Lafayette is on the line. John, what do you got for us?
Well, it's been a while since I've called in. I think that's mostly because, much like you guys have been saying, I don't feel like I have anything unique to say anymore.
Fair enough,
It's the same old story.
But I guess since, this is kind of like the end of the regular season, I just thought I'd give some thoughts about, I guess I'll reflect on the question that you guys asked Doug, which was like, what did you see on that last play? And I saw it a lot today. Pretty much any time Syracuse came out of a long timeout, and they were clearly getting out-coached, is just incompetence.
And it's kind of crazy to be out-coached by Jeff Capel, of all people.
Who's also fighting for his
Someone
job.
who's probably very much also on his way out at Pitt.
Yeah, and I just hope that in the future, Syracuse is able to land a coach, because I'm not going to act like I'm a whole professor on this whole NIL era, and but it's obvious that we're entering a new age in college basketball. We need a guy who can not only has the talent and the experience to turn a program around quickly and to foster the talent that they have, but that can draw in. I guess you have to draw in financial investments and give them a product that convinces them to keep those investments on a consistent rate over a span of, I'm guessing, at least half a decade. And I know something that any college basketball fan anywhere in the country will tell you. College basketball is better when Syracuse is on top.
100%.
You have a product
100%.
that people want to buy into. And I hope that that's what we see in the future. I think that's what everyone wants. And I'm looking forward to, a 35,000 fans in the stands sometime soon.
Definitely, John. And, you said NIL could be a little bit confusing. Almost think of it like simple economics. If the demand is there, if the team is good, more money's going to be put into it. And I think that's the end of the day, what we've been talking about, John. Thank you so much for the call. We really appreciate it. Once again, if you want to be like John, 315-443-2011 is the number to call. We're up against a break, but when we come back, we're going to dive into some ACC tournament scenarios. That coming up on Tuesday. Syracuse, the 14 seed, has a date with SMU at 4:30. That and a whole lot more. The double overtime rolls on up until 8:30 here on WAER.
News hour from the BBC.
Understand what's happening.
With news.
What's going on?
Heat waves, cyclones, storms, floods.
Increasingly unpredictable weather events.
Interviews.
2024 is the hottest year on record.
This is an uncharted situation.
And analysis of the day's global events.
In the Middle East, it's very difficult to be shocked nowadays.
That's News Hour from the BBC.
Weekdays after morning edition at 9 on WAER, your local NPR station.
The U.S. and Israel's war against Iran has spread to at least 9 other countries in the Middle East. But what is the plan after the fighting? We'll take a look at that with the latest developments from the ground, Plus, how are different media outlets framing their coverage of this war? Those stories Sunday on Weekend Edition from NPR News.
Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on WAER, your local NPR station from the Newhouse School at Syracuse University.
Hi, I'm Dwayne Kokenauer, the host of Sunday Night Blues, airing on Sundays from 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. on 88.3 FM WAER Syracuse or WAER.org. I play an eclectic mix of blues music, including Chicago, Delta, early, electric, jump, contemporary, and local blues. To hear the entire spectrum of blues music, tune into Sunday Night Blues with Dwayne Kokenauer.
Brings it to the wing, finds Kings, right wing triple, rattles in! Nate King swirls it home. Another game-tying three for Syracuse.
Welcome back. The double overtime on WAER. Pittsburgh 71, Syracuse 69, the final in overtime. Alongside Dan Papillo, I'm Josh Richardson, breaking down another SU loss, the 12th of ACC play and the 16th overall on the year. Syracuse finishes the regular season 15-16. Back-to-back losing seasons for the Orange. If you want to talk about it, 315-443-2011, the number to call. Talk to Dan and I, or you can interact with us at WAER Sports Talk on X and on YouTube. Dan, we've broken down the instant reactions, right? Everything X's and O's wise, I think that we can really talk about from this game. Really disappointing for Syracuse, obviously, to lose to this Pittsburgh team that is really, really bad. I mean, it took a win to sneak into that 15 spot, to barely make it into the ACC tournament, a team that was right on the verge of missing the conference
it's kind
tournament.
Of almost impressive to nearly miss
really
the ACC
is.
tournament
It
when
really
15 of
is.
18 teams make it.
I know. But just to kind of summarize it, right? Like, did you feel anything watching this game? Like, I just watching this game from a Syracuse perspective, I just kind of felt dead inside. I mean, there was nothing. It didn't matter. It really doesn't matter at this point what happens for Syracuse on the court.
So the short answer, no. The long answer, obviously this game meant something for Pitt, right? They were playing for their lives. But it also meant something for Syracuse, too. You know, you got to take away you got to think about the emotional factor of this being senior night, the final game in the Dome for a majority of these guys. So Syracuse definitely wanted to come out there and perform at the highest level and try to compete. And unfortunately, we've just been falling into the same trap of watching the Syracuse team falter late, not play good offense, not really do anything. So it almost just kind of felt inevitable. Like, sitting there watching this game could very easily, tie game at halftime.
Yep.
You and I both said this game has overtime written all over it. This is what happens when two bottom feeders in the ACC go at it.
Yeah.
It's kind of reminded me a lot. Funny enough, it reminded me a lot of the game against Cal.
Yeah.
But the difference with that was...
Well, that did go to overtime also.
Exactly, but the difference with that was Cal wasn't necessarily a bottom feeder. That team is right on the bubble of the ACC tournament.
Maybe Boston College, good example.
Yeah, Boston College, that's a good one as well. It's just... It almost just makes you, upset in a way of this is where Syracuse basketball is. This is
going to overtime with Pitt.
This is the level that the program is at now. Yeah, it's definitely no. I didn't feel a lot watching this game, except maybe a little bit of existential dread.
It's tough, and I'm glad that you bring up, it's the last game in the Dome for a lot of these guys. I think that goes for a lot of the non-seniors as well, right? Like, of course, all of the seniors are graduating. Maybe some guys will use a grad year, play somewhere else.
In this landscape of college sports,
I have a feeling a lot of these guys are leaving.
Exactly. Everybody could very easily pack up and leave. And the draw this season for Syracuse was, it's a new era. Kyan Anthony's coming. Sadiq White's coming. Two really good recruits.
Are they going to be here next year? Is Donnie Freeman going to be here
Donnie Freeman was the highest rated recruit since Carmelo Anthony. Yeah. And guess what? It didn't work. So now you're really going back to square one. New chancellor, new AD, possibly new head coach, most likely new head coach.
Yeah. And probably a new roster.
And a completely new roster. It's really going to feel completely different than what we've been seeing. So if you're a Syracuse fan listening right now, I hope you've been cherishing watching your favorite players because might not be much time left.
look, at this stage in the season and with how the last 2 years have gone, I don't know how many favorite players there really are at
That's
this
the
point.
thing, too, with college. Like, do people even have favorite players anymore? Call in and let us know if you have a favorite player on the Syracuse team.
315-443-2011. If you have a favorite player on this Syracuse team, I would love to hear it. I don't know if I've had a favorite player on a Syracuse team since probably Trevor Cooney.
That's a very fair
I
point.
think, like, that was my guy.
I was a big Joe Girard fan.
Oh, yeah,
But
sure.
that one, he broke my heart.
Represent upstate New York.
Broke my heart,
Yeah.
went to Clemson, and then flew them out in the dome.
But I think overall, right, I mean, like, the good news for Syracuse is that there is going to be so much change, right? Complacency kills, and it's very clear even when John Wildhack was here and he said that we need to be playing meaningful games in March. That was the whole selling point on what Adrian Autry needed to do to stay off the hot seat as this year progressed. Clearly, that did not happen.
So does the first round of the ACC tournament on
No,
a Tuesday
no,
at 4:30 p.m.
I
isn't
don't
meaningful
find
to
that.
you?
No, not really. Not when you go 15-16 and 6-12 in the ACC. I don't find that
Fair enough.
very meaningful. But again, so now you get a new AD, still not yet announced. Obviously, hopefully, they're going to take their time on that decision and not just kind of not rush into it, but just make a very quick decision.
I mean,
right?
rumors have been swirling that it might be announced as early as this
The
week.
10th, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know. Obviously, you never know when that's actually going to happen. You get a new chancellor for the school. I mean, everybody really just wants to, have this program get back to where it was. And the state that it has been has just not been good, especially with the guys that are on the court, especially now. One of those guys, J.J. Starling, Chris and Dale from Delaware want to talk about Starling not playing in the final 15 minutes of senior day. What do you guys got?
Unbelievable, gentlemen, that a man who's done so much for this program and for this community, lifting Baldwinsville High School from a time, I will say, to bringing them back to the peak of mid in the ACC, to be shunned next to Adrian Autry and his lackeys is truly scintillatingly poor.
And listen,
Chris, Dale, I don't know
I've
which
been,
one you
I've been
are.
going to games for 44 years, and this is supposed to be a family. We needed a shooter to win the game, and our best player was on the bench. I mean, how are you going to get anybody to come to this school if you treat a local kid like garbage?
Wait, you don't think he deserved to be benched going 0 for 7 from the field today?
Daniel, he's from Baldwinsville.
All right, Chris, Dale, I don't know which one of you this is, but I have to say, I couldn't disagree more. I don't care that he's homegrown. He was awful, but thank you for the call, Chris and Dale from Delaware. But I do think that they bring up an interesting point, right? I mean, J.J. Starling, he's done. This is it. The legacy that I think J.J. Starling was hoping that he would leave at Syracuse just clearly never amounted to anything. I mean, it was just, right? Like his whole idea of leaving Notre Dame to come back home, come back to Central New York, it was to bring this program back to the tournament. That didn't happen.
And
they didn't really get that close either.
I hate to say it, Josh, I'm really not upset to see him go either.
Yeah, I'm not either. I think I'm upset to see him go from the standpoint of what might have been, but I'm not sad to see him go because of all of the greatness and excellence that he brought to this basketball program.
The great memories, or lack thereof,
Yeah.
from his Syracuse tenure. The only one that really comes to mind was he had a really good showing. I think it was against Youngstown State last year.
Yeah, he did.
He had that big
win.
game. Yeah, the fact they went to double overtime with
Against
Youngstown
State says a lot, I think.
But, yeah, as much as J.J. Starling has done for the Central New York community, being, a local leader for the Syracuse basketball team, it's very much time for a new era. It's very much time for some new players to come in and really kind of take over and give this team a new identity, because the identity that they had this season, the season prior, maybe even the season before that, has not been up to snuff.
How are you feeling about the state of the Syracuse program? 315-443-2011. Again, 315-443-2011. Interact with us on X and YouTube at WAER Sports Talk. Syracuse drops the regular season finale to Pitt 71-69. With Dan Papillo, I'm Josh Richardson. I mean, Dan, how are you feeling going into where this program is heading. Do you have any optimism just because of how much change is going to happen? Right, the change last year was the change on the court, right? It was the most overhaul that Syracuse has had rotation-wise, but the coaching staff and the athletic directory in office, like that wasn't changing. But now it really feels like everything is going to have a seismic shift.
I mean, if you've ever listened to me on this show or just any time, I'm an eternal pessimist. And maybe that's just because of my sports fandoms as a Mets and a Jets fan.
Yeah, you kind of have to live with
But
that.
it's very hard to find optimism sometimes. But I will say, after hearing what Mike Haney had to say in his chancellor induction the other day, and hearing him talk about the old standard of Syracuse athletics and how he wants to get back to that, I felt a good amount of optimism from that.
I did too.
I felt good in the fact that somebody is taking over who knows what this program can be and should be. This fan base has been one of the most loyal, one of the most dedicated, and one of the most passionate in the entire country. And they had every reason to be for the past 20 years, for the past 50 years under Jim Boeheim. But now, through this rough stretch, having the opportunity now to possibly build from the ground up and get back to that point after what they've gone through the past few years, I think it's fair to at least feel a teeny bit of optimism.
Yeah. I think this is a direct quote from Mike Haney during his press conference. It matters that we are a premier athletic brand and nationally competitive athletics program. That doesn't just mean for the sports that they currently are, right? Men's lacrosse, nice win over Hopkins today. Women's lacrosse consistently ranked, field hockey consistently ranked. Syracuse football, bad year. Syracuse men's basketball, bad 2 years. Back-to-back years under 500. That is not good. Something had to change in some way. And, we've talked about guys that might come back, might leave. Nate Kings did submit a waiver for an extra year to remain at Syracuse.
Cool.
I mean,
big whoop.
Yeah. But what's gonna change, right? I mean, I think there was a lot of disappointment from this season. Mike from Manlius wants to talk about that and reflect on the season. Mike, what do you got?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm all right. Okay, so new AD, new chancellor, and new coach. So this is probably unprecedented in SU history.
Yeah, probably.
I'm wondering, as much as SU basketball showed a lack of a plan, I pray to God that the administration has a plan, because it might be a harder problem to fix than they're anticipating, because I was just reading in the Bible when David took out Goliath. Goliath kept cursing God, and I don't think God will stand up for this, honestly. So I hope the program, figures it out, but I wouldn't bet on it.
Yeah, I don't know. Mike, thank you so much for the call and just talking about the state of this Syracuse program. I mean, he's right. This really is unprecedented to have all of this. It's really the triple crown: new chancellor, new AD, new head coach. Likely, obviously, Adrian Autry not been released from his
I'd
duties
argue this.
yet.
There's a good chance this is the first time this has happened at any university. That's a lot.
I'd love someone to. Yeah,
that's
I
a
don't know
lot
that
of
off the top
change.
my head,
We've
but-
got some good statistics people around here at
100%.
WAER. Maybe somebody could dig that up. But yeah, he's right. Having so much change that it's very much, you're just kind of buying into the brand at this point. We've talked about how Syracuse has built a brand. No matter where you go, there's going to be Syracuse fans, no matter where Syracuse goes. Even down in Baltimore today, playing against Johns Hopkins in lacrosse, it was a 50-50 split down there.
The Syracuse Mafia is real.
Yes, the Syracuse Mafia travels well, and they are very passionate, and they support this university.
Yeah, I got to go down to Atlanta for Syracuse and Georgia Tech earlier this year, and there was a lot of orange there. I mean, there were I'd say there was probably like a 60-40 split down in Atlanta. I mean, you're going to find fans everywhere, and having a program that doesn't live up to par just isn't acceptable in 2026 when you have this big of a program that should have this amount of money to be able to compete with the best of the best.
Last season, Syracuse went down to Brooklyn to play two games against Texas and Texas Tech in a tournament. I forget what the name of it was, but Syracuse had the most fans by far. Those games felt like games in the Dome. I was getting goosebumps being in the audience for that and watching the crowd roar for J.J. Starling baskets and Chris Bell threes, which feels like a long time ago, doesn't it?
It really does. And it's disappointing because I think everyone wanted this era of Syracuse basketball to kind of transition seamlessly from what Jim Boeheim left. And yes, the last 2 years of Boeheim weren't great, but in 2021, they went to the Sweet 16. They nearly upset Houston in that Sweet 16 game to make it to the Elite, right? Like this wasn't a program that was doomed from the beginning when Adrian Autry took over. There were pieces that Jim Boeheim left, and it didn't work that first year, and somehow it progressively got worse. And I think that's what's so surprising about all of this.
It's hard too, I think, from like a collegiate lens. It's hard because this happens a lot in professional sports where teams go through rebuilding stages. It's very different, I think, in college just because the turnover is different. You know, it's a lot more recruiting and more or less.
Yeah, and rebuilding, right? Like, you don't get the number one pick of a recruit like you do in a draft.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to rebuild.
Yeah.
So
the recruits are just going to go where they want to go.
Exactly. When you're stuck in the mud, like a couple of these teams in the ACC, Syracuse, Boston College, even Pitt, it's kind of hard to build your way back out. And this is the way to do it. It has to kind of be a scorched earth sort of decision. Everybody kind of has to reset, kind of hit the reset button and figure out what's changing and really decide if you're hopping on the bus or not, because it's going to look a whole lot different everywhere you look. But at the end of the day, it's still under that same Block S.
315-443-2011. Call in and let us know what your thoughts on where this SU program is heading. Let's talk a little bit more about how this season might unfold. Tuesday, 4:30, Syracuse and SMU. Rematch of a game earlier in the season. Probably the best game of the season for Syracuse. Matchup-wise, win-wise, came down to the wire, 79-78 over the Mustangs. Now you get them again in the ACC tournament. What do you think that's going to look like? Does Syracuse do it again? Does it extend its season one more day? I mean, okay, here, better question. How many days do you think Syracuse is playing in the ACC tournament next week? One?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot sit here confidently and say that Syracuse is going to beat SMU twice, a team that is certainly better than them, and a team that it took a miraculous Nate King's layup at the buzzer on a play where Syracuse couldn't even draw up a play. Nate King's just kind of held the ball in the final 10 seconds and got lucky with a putback layup. That game was not very inspiring back on Valentine's Day, and it's hard for me to sit here and think that the Orange could do that again, this time in a tournament where it matters.
SMU struggling as of late, though. Lost the last 4, so definitely maybe a more interesting matchup. I mean, both of those teams are certainly entering at its worst of the year. SMU 8-10 in ACC play, Syracuse 6-12. But overall, I mean, Mustangs won 19 games.
You want to know the difference?
Let's
SMU played Pitt a few weeks back and won by 20.
Yeah, there's the difference.
There's your difference right there. I don't think Syracuse has beaten any ACC opponents by 20 this season.
Yeah, 1, 7, 14, 8, 11, 10. Yeah.
I mean, Syracuse also hasn't won away from the Dome since January.
That's also true.
They're going to go win down in Charlotte?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of confidence
I can't sit here and say that I'm confident in that. But I will say that when you've played a team fairly recently, that the game plan at least should be, set in stone.
You got film.
You kind of know what you're going to see. And from SMU, Boopy Miller, obviously the Wake Forest transfer, has been really good. He's averaging 19 points per game.
Mm-hmm.
Syracuse in that game was getting destroyed down low.
Oh, yeah. Samit Yigitolu. That is a man. 7-2. 270.
Samit Yigitolu was dominating on the glass, dominating in the post. Syracuse had no answer. The answer was actually him fouling out of that game.
Was.
A lot of offensive fouls being called on him. So I would assume that this time around, it's going to be the same story, and Syracuse isn't going to have an answer, and the chances of him fouling out again probably aren't that high, because now you know what to expect at least a little bit. So when you look at it that way, it's not a very inspiring.
Yeah. And he only played the 19 minutes in that game. He didn't get to play nearly as much as I'm sure SMU would have liked, and that directly contributed to the Orange's comeback in the second half. Now, let's just say, hypothetically, they beat SMU. Wednesday would be against number 6 Louisville at 2:30.
You have any confidence in that one? Because I definitely don't.
No. How am I supposed to have?
Earlier this week, that was a bad
literally
watch.
on
That was a bad
Tuesday.
watch. Yeah, that was a bad
I don't really need to think much about that. I watched that firsthand, or I listened to it here on WAER.
I really hope that that what comes next year is so much better than what these last 2 years have looked like, because it's just not what the fans, what the Syracuse natives, and what the students especially deserve.
The problem is the bar is so low at this point that I think Syracuse fans and students and everybody that you just mentioned would be happy to just see Syracuse maybe playing for some excitement.
Yeah.
Like if Syracuse was in a position like Cal, like, maybe 20-10, a decent ACC record right on the bubble, and the ACC tournament means something, that would be an improvement. And a lot of Syracuse fans are probably listening and saying, well, I don't want that. That's not really that inspiring, but it's a step in the right direction somehow, some way.
I think that Adrian Autry's first year has now, in hindsight, been grossly underappreciated.
Oh, 100% it has.
20-12, 11-9 in ACC play. So that's 20 wins, an above 500 record in the conference, an upset win over, at that point, number 7, North Carolina. Syracuse had a lot of things going right that first year under Adrian Autry. And I think that's why what's happened these last 2 years has been so disappointing.
The games down the stretch in that season mattered. I
Yeah,
mentioned
they
Joe.
did.
I mentioned,
they really did.
I mentioned Joe Girard earlier in the show. When Joe Girard and Clemson came to the Dome on that Saturday afternoon, the Dome was packed, not just because it was Joe Girard's return, but because it was a huge game for Syracuse in the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
And they fell just short. And then right after that, they upset North Carolina. And it meant something because it meant the season was still alive. Yeah. Syracuse just put a big win on its resume. It followed it up with a loss to Georgia Tech.
But then they rattled off 4 straight. With
exactly.
1 game left, right? They hit the 20-win mark. They were 20-10. If they won 2, maybe 3 games in the ACC tournament that year, probably going dancing.
Exactly.
You could totally make an argument that could
now,
be the case.
You could sit here and also say, well, you ran into NC State, who ended up going on a miracle run that year. But either way, that first season for Autry was something that Syracuse fans, if they got that next season, it would be 100% be a success.
I completely agree. And again, it's just so disappointing that it was 1 step forward, 2 steps back for the last 2 years under Autry.
Sometimes you have to take a step back to take a step forward. Maybe this has just been a giant leap back to finally start moving ahead again. Who knows?
You'd have to hope, right? At this point?
At this point, yeah.
You'd have to hope. And hopefully Syracuse can rebound next year with a new chancellor, a new athletic director, likely a new head coach. But, of course, the Orange still have at least 1 more game left in the year against SMU. That'll be on Tuesday. And we've still got another 29 minutes here on the double overtime. But for now, we'll take a quick break here on the double overtime. And when we come back, we'll have our reporter, Nate Martin, who was in the Dome to watch another SU loss at the hands of Pitt. He'll give us everything that he had up close and personal and everything that he saw and heard from inside the Dome. Don't go anywhere here on the double overtime on WAER Syracuse.
Dig, if you will, a picture of a story that starts with a twist. She hears a voice inside of her. Can you, my darling, can you picture this? For Snap Judgment Fever series, this is what it sounds like when doves cry. Snap Judgment. Do not miss it.
Sunday morning at 10 on 88.3 FM WAER.
Congress has approved a White House request to eliminate federal funding for public media. NPR and this station remain committed to informing the public, increasing your understanding of the world, and enriching everyday life. But without federal funding, we are relying on your support now more than ever. Please make your gift to this station today. Here's how, and thank you.
Visit WAER.org to get started today.
NewsHour from the BBC brings you interviews, news, and analysis of the day's top global events.
What's going on?
What happens next?
Let's get more on our top story now.
With reporters across the world covering stories when they happen, wherever they happen.
This place is so remote that it's hard to imagine it as the front line of a major geopolitical row.
NewsHour from the BBC.
Weekdays after Morning Edition at 9 on WAER, your local NPR station.
Witherspoon kicks outside Corrin, left wing. He takes the three and nails it. Cam Corrin, a 37% three-point shooter at 6'10", knocks down the triple.
Welcome back to the Fireside Chats. Or should I say the double overtime? I mean, we've been doing a lot of reflecting on this show. It's kind of felt very much like sitting around the fireplace and talking about the good old days.
That last day before you go off to college from high school.
Exactly.
That last day with all the boys.
But it is the double overtime after Pittsburgh beat Syracuse 71-69 in overtime. Dan Papillo, Josh Richardson. Got you up until 8:30, but we're happy now to bring in the third member of our crew who was in the Dome today, our talk reporter, Nate Martin. Thank you for joining us, Nate.
Hey, you mentioned the Fireside Chat. I don't even know if we need a fire right now. What a day it was. Nice outside. It's over 60 degrees.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was nice.
It's been a great day of weather here in the 315, a great day of sports. Syracuse lacrosse picking up a win, but not so much of a great ending inside the Dome. Syracuse fell on senior day. And Nate, the first thing I want to talk about with you, what was the reaction like from Adrian Autry postgame?
Yeah, I think it was, he kind of came into the press conference, like he was smiling almost. He was excited to talk to the reporters. And then once he got in there and the reporters started asking him questions, that joy almost went away.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what he was expecting, but they come in there at the final possession of overtime, obviously. Syracuse had a chance to call a timeout and decided not to. And right away, Mike Waters, Syracuse.com reporter, asked him, did you think about calling a timeout? And Autry was like, no. Like, we had a look that we wanted. We wanted to get the ball down low to Donnie. Nate was bringing up the ball, and we weren't able to. And they were like, why did you should have just called the timeout then. And he was like, but it was back and forth. It was confrontational almost between Autry and the reporters.
Yeah, I mean, it's a drastic difference between how Autry was last weekend after the Wake Forest loss. I mean, Autry was very visibly frustrated during that game. It's kind of interesting that he was kind of bubbly, I guess.
Obviously, this is a different type of game. I think there was a lot more emotions around this game, like bittersweet almost, where, obviously it's your final game with a lot of the seniors that you brought in, including a guy like J.J. Starling. For 3 years, he's been by your side, your number one option at Syracuse, and it's his final game of the Dome. It very well could be your final game of the Dome, which is obviously, exciting, sad, whatever it is. And he comes in and he's happy almost, and then completely changes him by the end of it. Like, he's almost just fighting for his job, it felt like.
Certainly a lot of emotions in the Dome air, and we had a caller earlier on the show tell us that the crowd around him was very hostile towards Autry and towards the crowd. What was your perception of the crowd in the Dome tonight and kind of how they felt after watching yet another Syracuse loss in overtime?
I didn't feel much hostility towards Autry. I felt a lot of it. It was a very loud crowd, considering there was no student section. I think if there was a student section there, this would have been one of the largest attended games of the season, which says something for a team that entering tonight was on a 4-game losing streak. And that just shows the belief that
it's the last time to see him play.
Obviously, that is part of it, but I also think it shows the belief that this fan base has in the team. And that says something to me about, like, this fan base cares a lot. They want to see this team win. And then they got treated to that where you were down by double digits. You fought back.
An announced attendance tonight of 19,837.
Without a student section.
If anybody was wondering. I mean, do you think there were 20,000 people in the Dome?
It felt like it.
Really?
It felt like it. It was a loud crowd. It was always going to be a loud crowd when it went to overtime and there was these games of runs. And it was a really fun environment to be at.
Yeah, and no student section either, kind of like you mentioned. Now, kind of talking about the game, what you saw, and also pivoting forward to what we just got done talking about is what this season might look like really in the future, or what this team might look like in the future. Nate George had probably his best game at Syracuse. I mean, if not his best, in the top 3.
I would say it was his best game.
Right? I mean,
yeah.
I mean, points, 26 points. I mean, he had a great day. Do you think that he is somebody that might come back next year for Syracuse? B, if he does, is he the guy that you build around, I guess, for whether it be Adrian Autry, whether it be a new coach that may or may not step in? Is he somebody that you're looking at the conclusion of this game and with likely one more game to play, this is the guy to focus the team around based on how he performed in this game?
Well, to answer your first question, do I think he's coming back? You don't know. Obviously, college basketball, anything can happen. Anyone can offer anybody this amount of money to join their school. But I think if you're Alex Klein, the general manager of Syracuse, you should make an effort to bring back Nathan George, because he proved to me today and over the last few couple weeks where he can be that number one guy for you as the guy running the offense, brought in as a facilitator, and over the last couple weeks has shown that he can also score. A career high, a Syracuse high today for the junior. Obviously has one more year of eligibility left. He could very easily be like one of the only seniors you have on that team next year.
One of the things, though, was Nathan George, when brought in this season, kind of fell short of the expectation. He averaged 6.5 assists last year, which was good enough for the best in the ACC, I believe. And this season, it's gone down an entire assist number, and something that's still been very high, 3 turnovers per game from your point guard. That's something that, isn't necessarily what you want to build around.
Yeah, I get that, but I also think it's all relative, right? Syracuse has always struggled with ball movement under Adrian Autry. Yes, you maybe hope that would have been better under Nathan George, but it's still the offense that you're running. He's not given much options.
I would hope the guy who was brought in to move the ball and can move the ball at a very high clip would kind of fix that.
He's one of 5 guys on the floor. You can't pass the ball if you don't have guys moving around for you.
That's true. And also, I'm sure Syracuse this year obviously had more scoring options than Georgia Tech did last year overall in terms of just who can put the ball in the
more scoring
basket.
options, and you still had less
Donnie
assist.
Freeman, isolation player. J.J. Starling, isolation player. When you pass the ball to a guy and he holds it for too long, it doesn't count as an assist anymore. You can be the last guy to pass the ball in a possession, and the possession ends in a made basket. Doesn't mean it's always going to count for an assist. So that's also something that could be in effect, right? Maybe whatever new coach that may or may not come in prioritizes ball movement and prioritizes, having a better offensive system than what Adrian Autry has run this year and over the last 2 years. Maybe that can be what Nate George is kind of there to still build around.
And that's why exactly I feel like he should be the one coming back next year, because you saw that he can be the scorer, but maybe in a different offensive set. He's the guy running the offense and, once again, leading the ACC in assists like he did a year ago with Georgia Tech. And that can take a Syracuse team under a new coach from here to there, from one level, from being middle of the pack to being making a push for a double bye in the ACC tournament next year.
Do you think Syracuse should try to retain Nathan George? Call in, let us know what you think. 315-443-2011. Syracuse falls to Pitt 71-69 in overtime. Here in the double overtime up until 8:30, Dan Papillo, Josh Richardson, and our reporter Nate Martin. I think we got to rip the Band-Aid off. I got to ask. It's definitely the elephant in the room, and it was definitely, I want to know if it was addressed. Did anybody bring up the possibility of this being the final game in the Dome for head coach Adrian Autry?
Yeah, once again, asked by Mike Waters, he said, all the news surrounding you, your job is on the line, it felt like. What was your feeling today? What was your emotion? And Autry just said, I was just trying to win a game today. I was only focused on my team. It's very much coach speak. I don't know.
That's
if
all
I
he
buy
can
that.
really.
That's all you can say.
I wasn't expecting him to say, I feel very upset. Or
the interesting one for me was from Jeff Capel, the Pitt coach, as we were walking into
in
the
a very
press
similar
conference.
spot. Yeah,
very similar spot. Obviously, for him, a chance that he was going to miss the ACC tournament, and we get into the press conference. Very quickly started as we got into the room, and Capel's references, he said, yeah, there's a lot of noise surrounding me. I'm sure you guys know what that can be like as a team, because that's what you have right here, right now. He referenced Autry's hot seat more than Autry did himself. But then Autry, the final question, they asked Autry about, did you think you've met the orange standard? And Autry gave this long-winded answer that sums up to it was difference. The difference in college basketball now is different when I first referenced the orange standard.
That sounds like an excuse.
NIL, analytics, transfer portal, it is absolutely an excuse. You're not the only guy dealing with a new era of college basketball. You're just not adapting to it.
And it's not like he entered his head coaching tenure
before NIL was like really starting to get introduced.
It was still a
different
thing
2 years ago. It was different 2 years ago.
It was different 2 years ago, but it was still there. Like it was still a reason why Mike Krzyzewski began to get out of coaching. Why, obviously different sport, but Nick Saban began to get out of this type of idea of NIL. Like it has been known that this is going to be a thing.
But even
how are you going to say? Sorry to cut you off, but how are you going to sit here and say that? Oh, the world's been changing.
Yeah.
When you brought in a general manager, we're one of the first teams in all of college basketball to do that, to try to get a step up on NIL.
It's almost like you're trying to counteract your very stagnant style of basketball, an old school style of basketball that is pretty much feels
all
like
the
it's
NIL
unchanged
money in
from
the world can't solve.
It can't solve its
offensive
stagnant
system.
offense. It can't solve that, and it can't solve. Obviously they haven't been going to it as much recently, but we saw it for a lot of ACC play, running a 2-3 zone as your primary defense. That's not going to work in today's basketball.
That's what ran Boeheim out of coaching.
Exactly, and it's probably what's going to run Autry out as well. His failure to adapt and a change. And to be fair, granted, that's all he knows. He was a Syracuse player under Boeheim. He ran this type of offense. He ran this type of defense. He was a coach under Boeheim all these years, even as kind of Syracuse's grasp on basketball was slowly starting to slip away. He was there, and they never adapted because it's all he knows. It's all this Boeheim family knows, the Syracuse family. And I think,
I think that's why so many fans want Syracuse to move outside of the Boeheim tree for the new head coach, is because nothing changes if nothing changes, right? Like it's still going to be a microcosm of what the offense has consistently been. I'll pose this question to you, and Dan, you can answer it too, but just like watching that game in person, if another coach that has been on the hot seat entering this year at least, and I think has moved away from that with the success of North Carolina, Hubert Davis was definitely on the hot seat.
Mm-hmm.
If Hubert Davis is the head coach of Syracuse this year instead of Adrian Autry, how much different do you think this season looks from an offensive success standpoint? I'm not going to go like.
Well, it would also help if Adrian Autry had a future top 5 pick in Caleb Wilson.
Yeah, but no, I'm saying Hubert Davis takes over this Syracuse team, right? Like this is, I think everyone has said this year that this is the most talented Syracuse team that Autry has had in terms of the guys on the court, talent-wise.
I would argue this is one of the most talented teams Syracuse has had in the last decade.
So that's what I'm saying. Hubert Davis, I'm not going to say John Shire. That's a bit of a cop-out.
No.
Hubert Davis comes in, takes over this Syracuse team from day one. How much different does this team look today?
I would say it looks different. I think it would be for the better. Do I think it would be from, Syracuse being nearly missing the ACC tournament to being a top 25 team better? It's hard to say, right? You don't really. We haven't seen this roster play under a really solid set of offense and going back and forth. And what I think it would be better, though. It would definitely be better.
Of course, now the perspective moving to the ACC tournament. Syracuse locked in as the 14 seed, taking on number 11 SMU on Tuesday at 4:30. Nate, do you feel any optimism? We just kind of had this conversation. I'm curious your thoughts.
If you ask the players, if you ask the coaches, they're feeling optimistic.
I'd hope so.
I mean, what are they going to say? No.
This is an SMU. Syracuse did play very well in that SMU game when these teams played in the Dome a couple of weeks ago. Autry said after the game, he said, I think that we can get on once we get on a neutral court. We've been fighting more in these games. I think we can win these games.
They haven't won away from the Dome since January.
You couldn't even win at home in a close game against a Pitt team that is worse than you based on the standings.
And you know what?
I do not buy it.
It took
at all.
a miracle and a late collapse by SMU to win that game.
Yeah, it did. That's some coach speak. I mean,
that is ridiculous.
But of course, like, what is he going to say? No, I don't feel optimistic.
I know.
I want the season to be over. Like, of course, you're going to have confidence in your guys, but it's just
deep
like
down, I
at
think
least say something. At least whatever coach speak you're going to have, at least make it corroborate with what has actually gone on this season. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna win. We're gonna win in the ACC tournament when we just lost back-to-back home, right? Like.
And confidence and execution are two completely different things. You can go in, I'm sure they actually are feeling confident about themselves. Oh, we just fought very well. They were down by double digits in this game and they fought back. You can say what you want, but as a player, you're like, I can back myself. I think if we just made one or two more different things, we win this game, which is true. But it's different between actually having that confidence than going into the ACC tournament and playing off that confidence and executing over and over again.
You feel good after putting up sub 70 against an ACC bottom feeder in 5 periods? I don't know about that necessarily. I don't feel great about that if I'm a Syracuse player. The fact that it took overtime, or you probably coming into this game, you felt like you're the better team. You beat this team back in January. I don't think that's very inspiring as a player.
Yeah,
if I were in that,
circumstances, you were also down by double digits in that game. You were also down by double digits in this game, where you fought back. Nathan George puts the team on his back. Donnie Freeman puts the team on his back, plays very well down the stretch. And then a couple mistakes, some bad turnovers. Pitt made the adjustment of forcing Nate King's kind of going one way instead of the other, and that was the difference. Just that simply, just 1 or 2 plays was the difference if you're a player. That is exactly your mindset.
Just going to have to wait and see what happens for the Orange on Tuesday. Nate Martin joining us from the Dome, the first of many. Thank you so much for taking the time. We'll be back in just a little bit. The double overtime still got 12 more minutes to go. When we come back, we'll be giving you our final words and a little bit more. Don't go anywhere. The double overtime rolls on here on WAER.
Is there legal justification for the U.S. and Israel's war against Iran under international law? We ask an international human rights lawyer.
These are not justifications under the UN Charter.
That conversation and the latest developments on the war on the next morning edition from NPR News.
Tomorrow morning from 5 to 9 on WAER, your local NPR station from the Newhouse School at Syracuse University.
The U.S. and Israel's war against Iran has spread to at least 9 other countries in the Middle East. But what is the plan after the fighting? We'll take a look at that with the latest developments from the ground, plus how are different media outlets framing their coverage of this war. Those stories Sunday on Weekend Edition from NPR News.
Sunday morning from 8 to 10 on WAER, your local NPR station from the Newhouse School at Syracuse University.
Hi, I'm Dwayne Kokenauer, the host of Sunday Night Blues, airing on Sundays from 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. on 88.3 FM WAER Syracuse or WAER.org. I play an eclectic mix of blues music, including Chicago, Delta, early, electric, jump, contemporary, and local blues. To hear the entire spectrum of blues music, tune in to Sunday Night Blues with Dwayne Kokenauer.
Intrusitis on the handoff, drives baseline, pass to Corin, swatted on the dunk attempt by Kyle. Oh my gosh, Corin was going to jam it home, and Kyle denies it.
Wrapping up shop here on the double overtime on WAER. Syracuse loses the regular season finale 71-69 to Pitt. The Orange finished the regular season 15-16, 6-12 in ACC play. We've got about 10 minutes left here on the double overtime, the last one of the regular season. One more, definitely, at least one more for the ACC tournament contest on Tuesday. But, Dan, it's time to go over our final words. And I have a feeling that both of our final words are going to have something to do a lot more about the season than just this game specifically. You want to kick us off?
I wonder what makes you say that. But
well, maybe because I'm looking at both of them right now.
Yeah, fair enough.
But anyway, go ahead.
Really breaking the fourth wall for our audience. But I was on this show 3 weeks ago after the game against Cal, the double overtime win, and my final word was keep tuning in to WAER. Why? Because no matter what happens with Syracuse men's basketball, you're bound to just see something that was so terrible or so embarrassing for this program that it almost kept you hooked, that you had to see what was going to happen next. Now that we're at this point, at the final game of the season, my final word is that today was a microcosm of a disastrous season. Syracuse started the season hot with a lot of expectations, kind of like they did in this game, going on an early run, looking like, hey, we might be going somewhere, and then all of a sudden, things come crumbling back down. And at the end of the day, the little things kill this team, whether it's Donnie Freeman, J.J. Starling, William Kyle, the entire roster as a whole. Nothing clicked. Nothing could ever be done 100%. And at the final day of the regular season, once again falling under 500. It's embarrassing. And this game was also embarrassing, which is why I think that today is a microcosm of something bigger. A disaster of what was a possible past 3 years under Adrian Autry, a new regime coming in, a new wave, everything possibly changing. The disaster is finally coming to a close, and I'm kind of just sitting here and reflecting on it, thinking about every little thing that's happened this season. So many dumb little things, like the loss to Boston College at Conti Forum, the loss to Hofstra in December. Thank goodness we've almost reached a climax.
Yeah. I mean, if anything has been evident about this season for Syracuse men's basketball, it's that something needed to change, right? Adrian Autry was on the hot seat going into the start of this year, and he's still on the hot seat even more so now. Maybe he's off the hot seat because the decision has already been made. We don't know. My final word for this regular season finale of Syracuse men's basketball is, who cares about this game? You are one step closer to a program reset, and a much-needed program reset at that. Jim Boeheim retires, steps down, whatever the official terminology that was used at the end of the 22-23 season. Red Autry gets named as his replacement. There was already chatter over whether or not that was going to be the right hire, whether or not Adrian Autry was the right hire over Jerry McNamara. That was already a discussion. Whatever. GMAC goes to Siena. Siena, one of the best teams in the MAAC. Syracuse, struggling in the ACC. Difficulty for Red Autry. Program starts off good. 20 wins in his first year. Program gets a little worse. Program gets a lot worse. It just didn't work. And that's okay. What Syracuse thought it was going to get from Adrian Autry is clearly not what happened. And you can't change the past anymore. You just can't. You have to live with what happened. And the only thing that you can do now is move forward and try to construct a better team, a better roster, a better coaching staff, a better athletic organization and program. And with a new chancellor coming in, and a new athletic director coming in, and likely a new coach coming in after the conclusion of Syracuse's run in the ACC tournament, it's going to happen. And that was all going to happen whether or not Syracuse beat Pitt or Syracuse lost to Pitt. The outcome of this game had no bearing on the effect of Syracuse for the remainder of this regular season. It has no bearing on the effect of Adrian Autry's job status. It has no effect and bearing on anything that Syracuse does from here on out for the remainder of the 2025-26 season. But now you are one step closer to a program reset from the players, from the coaches, and from all of those in the offices, because it is clearly needed. And everybody agrees. So you lose this one to Pitt. It sucks. It's never fun to lose, but you're going to get what you want either way. And that is something to change. And that's my final word.
Well said, Josh. If you're a Syracuse fan listening, we thank you for sticking along with us all season long here on WAER. Buckle in, get ready for the ride, and pick a March Madness team to bandwagon.
Because it's not going to be Syracuse.
Josh is taking Miami of Ohio.
I am not, notably
for me,
not taking Miami
I'm taking
of Ohio.
the local product. Fins up! Long Island University to the national championship.
Notably did not even have to win the conference to make the automatic qualifier, since Mercyhurst is ineligible. March Madness should be fun this year, right?
It's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm going to have a lot of fun.
It's just unfortunate that there's not going to be any orange in it.
Yeah, no team. Well, I mean, Syracuse specifically.
Well, yeah, no Syracuse orange. Sorry.
Yeah. Do you have a March Madness pick at this moment right now?
I think
Off
it's
the
hard.
top of your head.
If I had to go right now, it's hard to pick against Duke.
Yeah.
I mean, that lineup's just really good.
Yeah.
That team's really good.
Look, I like Iowa State. I'm going to stick with Iowa State. I'm not going to go too basic and go with Duke or Michigan. I don't believe in Houston. This is actually, I was saying this to my parents yesterday, or it might have been this morning. I have picked Houston to go to the Final Four every year for the last probably 5 or 6 years.
this is going to be the first year that I don't do that. I do not think that this is...
Come on, this is the one.
No, it's not. It's not. And it certainly was not the one for Syracuse, but still some more games to be played for the Orange. At least one. Our next broadcast here on WAER Tuesday, March 10th, against 11 seed SMU, the 14th seeded Syracuse men's basketball squad in the ACC tournament first round. Game time is at 4:30 with McClure Remodeling countdown to tip off at 4 o'clock. Our next lacrosse broadcast Thursday, March 12th, with the Orange battling Air Force. Syracuse men's lax with a win today over Hopkins. Good win for the program. That game's at 5 o'clock. McClure Remodeling countdown to face off at 4:30. That concludes the double overtime here on WAER. Dan, this was fun. I had a good time.
What a great day. 8 straight hours of broadcasting here from our WAER studios. And it's been bookmarked by me. I started the broadcast, McClure Remodeling countdown to face off for lax at 12:30. And here we are signing off at 8:30.
You did a lot, so a big thank you to you for everything you did during the men's lacrosse game, and now, of course, on the double overtime with me. Some more thank yous to hand out. Our producer, Andrew Della Piana, who is just gracefully dancing in our master control studio. I mean, he is just so happy to be on to have this wonderful broadcast go. Our engineer, Griffin Marcy, who looks like he's doing the cha-cha slide as well. He's having a good time, pressing all the right buttons for us. Our reporter, Nate Martin, great job having him in studio, getting to chat with him. And, of course, our WAER Sports Talk desk of Cadence Gilhoff, Josh Rothert, and Jake Bowen. For Dan Papillo, I'm Josh Richardson, signing off from yet another Syracuse loss. The Orange lose and finish the regular season under 500. Have a good day. Have a good night, Syracuse.